and taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.
Welcome to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss. We are coming to you live from the Hy-Vee Club Room. Slow, but okay. Okay. Let's get faster as we move along. That's fine. Anyway, we've got you take your coat off. Tom Allen is already acting up. He just got here and he's already acting up. So anyway, we have a great show planned. Julia Punj is here, and she is going to do oysters. We're going to do preparations, 4 different preparations, I think, of oysters. That's fantastic. And then we're going to have a yule log. Okay, why not? Holiday time, yule log. Danielle George is going to do the yule log. And then Brandon Neal, sour cream old-fashioned donuts. So, and I think there might be some wine also. Yeah, there could be some wine, some eggnog. I'm not sure how all this sounds mixed up in my stomach, but you know what? We're going to have fun, and we'll see how it goes. So I want to just remind everybody that this is the second to last live show of the year. Next week, December 18th, the Indian Hills Culinary Arts crew will be here, and they will be doing holiday party food. And then after that, there will not be another live show till the end of January because we have Christmas Day is on Wednesday and New Year's Day is on Wednesday. So instead of live shows, those of us who are involved here will be doing other things. And so there are lots of great interviews that will be coming up first of the year. And we hope that you'll enjoy those interviews. We have some interviews with some of authors that I've really enjoyed talking with recently that have some terrific new books coming out. So listen up for interviews from Sue Conley, Cowgirl Creamery Cooks, Melanie Wagner, author of Hello Wine, and also several other wonderful authors. And while I'm talking about that, I might mention, because people have gifts that they're buying for friends or themselves or family members, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, some of these books, and I'll mention them again. Cowgirl Creamery Cooks, a fantastic book on cheese. I'll bet Julia's familiar with the cheeses from Cowgirl Creamery in California. No, if you're not, you need to be there. Amazing artisan cheesemakers. Hello Wine, Melanie Wagner. Again, An American Family Cooks, one of my favorite books of the year. Judy Choate. Judy's written, co-authored, or ghostwritten over 100 cookbooks in her career, and this is her magnum opus as far as her family is concerned. All the family meals and all the fun things that they did when her kids were growing up. An American Family Cooks. And Treme. I don't know how many people are familiar with the HBO series Treme, but this is, I see some heads nodding. Lolis Eric Ellie is the author, and that's a fantastic book, especially if you're in love with New Orleans. All right, well, let's get to the show. First of all, I would love to talk with, I'm passing by these donuts, and they're staring at me, so that's pretty exciting. So, Julia, are you ready? Yes. All right, let's talk. Hi. So, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good. I'm really hungry.
Well, we've got a lot of oysters.
All right, so tell us a little bit about these little creatures.
Well, these are blue points from Canada. They're farm-raised, and they've been shipped in. I think they've been here a couple days. And so I just unwrapped them a little bit and cleaned them off, and we're going to open them. And
you did the taste test?
I did the taste test, and they are good. They are good. They're a little briny. They're a little sweet. They're a little creamy. They'll be good.
Sounds actually really good. Julia graduated from the Pacific Institute of Culinary Arts with both a culinary degree and baking and pastry degrees, and she also has her advanced certification from Wine and Spirit Education Trust. And recently she was the executive chef of the restaurant Oyster Seafood and Raw Bar in Vancouver, British Columbia. So we're really happy to have you. And I think that one thing about oysters is, for most people, I think that when you mention the word oyster, people start running the other way.
Especially in the Midwest, that's true. But you don't have to be scared, because oysters are live, living things. And if you store them correctly, then they can live up to 2 weeks out of the water. So you don't have to be worried, especially since they can be shipped overnight anywhere.
Then the next thing, though, that people think about when they move from that point is they start thinking about, slimy, why do I want to put that? I'm not going to put that in my mouth.
Yeah, it's true. But there are lots of different types of oysters for lots of different types of palates. In the South, they have oysters that can be the size of your palm. In New Orleans especially, that they like to serve them raw. And then all the way up to the Pacific Northwest, where you get very small, about the size of, a tablespoon. And they can be really soft and delicious without the creamy sliminess that you can get in the bigger ones.
And, of course, those people who don't run but are actually running to get the oysters, it seems like when you're an oyster aficionado, that's something that you just can't get enough of.
It's true. There are people that fly all over the world trying different types of oysters from different places and comparing them and which wines go with what and what do you eat them with. And there's a lot of ways to prepare them, so there's an oyster for every palate.
Curious as to how or why you developed such a passion for oysters.
It was part of my job, actually. I had never tasted oysters before I moved to Vancouver, and it's just luck of the draw that I got to be the executive chef of an oyster restaurant, and I learned a lot on the job.
Now, I find that very funny because I'm just kind of picturing the interview. So what are your favorite oysters?
For me right now, I like the smaller oysters.
I'm going back to the interview.
The interview, right. Well, I don't remember that conversation, actually. I think it had more to do with my culinary skill than my specific oyster knowledge, but I learned a lot from the chef that was there before me, so it was a lot of learning on the job.
Okay, now we can get to what are your favorite oysters?
Okay. Kumamotos are my favorite oysters. They are very small Japanese oysters, about the size of a quarter, really, and I like to have them with a little lime and a little bit of caviar on top. Is my favorite oyster.
And raw.
And raw, absolutely. With the larger oysters, you can bake them, cook them, stew them, but with the smaller ones, you definitely want to keep them raw.
Okay, let's talk about the different preparations that... Actually, before we get to that, let's talk about food safety with fish, and specifically oysters.
Yeah, oysters can carry some bacteria that will make you very ill, but as long as you keep them at a certain temperature, just above 32, 34, you don't want to freeze them, but you want to keep them very cold.
Don't worry, it's all right.
Okay. And you keep them in a dark place, covered, lots of ice underneath, and with their cup down, so the actual organism is sitting in its own liquid, then they'll be good.
And I think those of you who are actually able to watch this on FMC or YouTube will actually see that, right, Jason? Okay. So otherwise, just cup down in ice.
In ice, covered in the refrigerator at its lowest setting, you'll be good.
Okay. Now, what about preparing them? Do you have to, handle them a certain way? Do you have to clean up a certain way?
Yes, it's very important that any surface that an oyster touches should be definitely sanitized after the use. The implements that you use to open them should be sanitized, and you need to throw away the shells so that they're not touching any other food.
Okay. So you better love oysters if you're going to go through all that.
It's true.
All right. So the different preparations.
We're going to do 4 different preparations. We're going to do raw, and I've got 2 different sauces that I'm going to make to go with them, a cocktail sauce and a champagne cucumber mignonette sauce. It's a twist on the traditional red wine vinegar mignonette. We're going to do a motoyaki style, which is baked miso mayonnaise. It's very popular in Japan and in Vancouver. We're going to do just a simple butter and parsley baked oyster, and then we're going to do pan-fried oysters with the salsa verde.
Was that 5? I'm losing track. But that
might have been. No, 2 sauces, one raw preparation.
Okay, sounds great. All right, and now, do you want to define? I think for the listeners, the classical types of sauces that you're going to use. For example, the salsa verde.
Yeah, the salsa verde is just a green sauce, and it can be done raw, it can be done cooked, and I'm doing a combination. I've roasted the garlic and the tomatillos, but all the peppers are going to be raw, and I'm just going to blend it in the Cuisinart for a little while, and it'll create a really beautiful brightness to the fried oyster.
And then the mignonette?
Mignonette sauce. Mignonette is a term for cracked black pepper. So it's really just vinegar with some sort of shallot or onion or other sort of seasoning with the cracked black pepper. And that's really classic for oysters. You see that and a lime or a lemon, on any preparation of oysters that you're given.
And these are really simple. Anybody can do this at home.
Absolutely, yeah. There's like 4 or 5 ingredients in each one.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so, and roasting, interestingly enough, did you do that because it just helps to bring out more flavor?
Yeah, it adds a little bit more flavor. It's also winter, so it brings a little bit more warmth, and it's just a little bit more of a dimension to the sauce.
Can you use something other than, to make the salsa verde, can you use something other than tomatillos, for example, if you can't find them?
Yeah, you could use red, but then it wouldn't be a salsa verde. It would be a salsa.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so what's up first?
I'm going to do the raw oysters, and I'm just going to start opening them, and then we're going to do the sauces to go with it.
Okay, so is that the hardest part, actually opening the oyster?
Yes, it is.
Can you describe that for us?
Why don't I demonstrate and talk about it
Perfect.
while I do it? Okay.
That's absolutely perfect. All right. So too bad we don't have a sign that we can, put up. Julia Punj is now about to try to open an oyster. So please, quiet on the set, everybody.
So what I like to do is have a cutting board and then a cloth and a microphone in my face, apparently. I take the oyster with the round side out around the edge of the cloth, pull it over so that I can hold it.
And now I will remove the microphone so that I can tell you. So you have to use a particular piece of equipment?
Yeah, this is called a shucking knife. This one I got off Amazon for $5. And it has a long blade. It's not sharp in any way, but it's very pointy. And then a large end so you can grip it and hold on to it. You put the end of the blade into the hinge of the oyster, kind of push it in there. I've never done this with a microphone. Push it in there till you kind of feel that the blade has gone past the shell and into the actual oyster. Wiggle it a little bit.
Interesting watching, Julia wiggling it, and is there something, so you're really feeling for it to go just past the shell into the flesh of the oyster?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm going to twist, and it pops.
I hope everybody heard that, actually. Can you do that again?
I can do that again. Then what you want to do is take the blade, make sure you're above where the oyster mantle is, come around, and then you've opened it.
So you basically just went around one side of the shell.
And then I'm taking the knife and going underneath to detach the other side, and I'm flipping it. And what I'm going to do, maybe I should do it under the
Yeah, you
mirror.
can't because, there's all kinds of other stuff already set up over there. It'll be a disaster. Mixing donuts and oysters, I don't think that's going to work too well.
Oh, okay. And that's it. That's how you open an oyster.
So is it a muscle that's holding it to the shell? What exactly is it? A piece of cartilage of some type?
It is. It's a muscle, and it's sort of like what a scallop is. I mean, it's not what a scallop is exactly, but it's got that sort of texture to it. So I'm going to do this one again.
Okay, I'm gonna let you get to the point where it's gonna pop, and then you're gonna let me know so that I can stick the mic right down there because I love that pop though.
Sound
That was like totally magnificent. Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was great. You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and that was the sound of an oyster opening. That was the pop. That was the perfect pop. Absolutely beautiful. Now, are you going to rinse that off?
I am. Sometimes, oysters live in the ocean, so they can...
Really?
Yes, they absorb what's around them, and sometimes they get a little bit muddy. So I'm just going to take some fresh spring water and just sort of clear it off a little bit before I put it.
Okay, so that's an easy thing to do at home. You can do that. So that's what they call oysters on the half shell then.
That is correct.
Brilliant. All right. What's next?
Well, we're going to make some sauces, and I just realized that I'm not going to be able to do the opening the oysters and the sauces at the same time. So maybe you want to help me open an oyster?
You guys can do that, and I can go away and come back in a few minutes.
Okay.
So you can just, let me know when you're available and when your oysters are ready. And meanwhile, we can talk to Danielle George. Danielle sells wonderful baked goods on Saturdays. Used to sell them on Saturdays outside, but now it's a little cold, right?
That's right. So we're in the senior center.
Right. On Saturday at the farmers market, because we have a farmers market all year round. And I guess I have to say I go every Saturday because, one, I have to have Brandon's sour cream old-fashioned donut. It's my Saturday fix. And in addition to that, then I have to either get a regular pie that Danielle baked or some of her finger pies and some of her granola, everything. It's absolutely delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah. So where did you get the skill of baking? Because it's not something that everybody can do. My wife, for example, is in love with your crust.
Oh, yeah. I have been making pies since February, and I've been doing it every day. So I think that if you do make pie crust every day, you will reach the point where you have a great pie crust. So
I don't know. Is there one particular secret ingredient?
Well,
I know you use plugra.
There's really, butter and a lot of it.
And plugra happens to be a European-style butter, which a lot of people favor in baking. So
yeah, it has a higher fat content. So
and there's nothing wrong with fat. Right?
No, it's good for you.
That's what we think around here anyway. Let's put it that way. All right. So what special treat do you have planned for the holiday season and Great Taste listeners?
Oh, well, I wanted to do something really easy, but festive. So I came up with an icebox Yule log, but in fact, when I went online, I saw that other people had come up with it too. So it's not totally new, but an icebox cake, for those who don't know, is just the easiest thing to make. It's 2 ingredients. It's whipped cream, chocolate wafers. You assemble it and you put it in the fridge overnight, and it's done. And it's one of those things where the whole is better than the sum of its parts, because it's just simple, but it's kind of sophisticated and light and decadent. It's really easy and really good. So I took that and I just formed it into a Yule log, which apparently a lot of people don't know what that is. So it's a cake made to look like a piece of wood.
And hence the Yule log.
Yeah, and there's a tradition of the Yule log, and it's an old tradition where people used to burn the Yule log in the hearth, and they would bring cakes that looked like the log and decorate it, and so that is what I brought today.
That's lovely. And the thing that I want everybody to understand is that when most people make Yule logs, they buy the cookies, the chocolate wafers, and they probably buy Reddi-wip or something like that and put it together. But you actually made the chocolate wafers and, of course, whipped your own whipped cream. So.
Oh yeah, and the wafers are so good. You can eat them on your own.
I know, I had one before we started.
Yeah, I had quite a few myself. I actually had to make another batch.
And they're really simple?
And they're really easy. You do it in the food processor. It's just a couple of ingredients. You just have to let it chill for a little while. I'll give you the recipe. You can put it on your website.
That would be excellent. We'd like that.
Nice as a gift too. You could put them in a little bag and just give them away as holiday cookie gifts with other cookies.
Yeah, actually, they're really simple. You can see those of us who are here in the audience and watching on the whatever the different video channels are. They're just really simple chocolate wafers. My mom used to make these. Anybody else's moms used to make this? Okay, my mom used to make them, but she bought like Nabisco chocolate wafers or something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
we don't want to do that, so that's good. We're going to do that. Okay. Oh, I washed my hands before I picked that up, by the way. Julia and I were having a discussion about cleanliness earlier, and the need to keep things very clean in the kitchen. So how's it going over there, by the way? We're doing good? Okay. All right. Well, I love those pops. So what's the process for making the cookies?
Okay. Well, you get flour, cocoa, salt, baking powder. And the cocoa is important because if whatever your cocoa is what your chocolate wafer will taste like. So you do want to put a little money into that. And you blend it up with some butter and then you roll it into a log, and you just try to make it uniform. You put it in the fridge for a couple of hours or overnight, and then you slice it really thin, put it in an oven, 350 degrees for about 10, 12 minutes, and they're done.
Wow. Now, do you have a finished product so that everybody can ooh and ah and look at it?
Oh,
of course,
yeah.
Because after that, of course, comes the whipped cream, but that's different, right? So that's everybody can ooh and ah here, and everyone who's listening. My gosh, it looks just like a log. I mean, it is totally like a log. It completely looks like a log, and in between all these different layers is whipped cream, and then what's the outside?
So this is also whipped cream with just cocoa and confectioner sugar, and inside I just folded peppermint into the whipped cream with a little peppermint extract. And then I didn't decorate it, but you can sift cocoa on it and confectioner sugar, and you could put little candy.
What happened to all those candy canes I bought?
Oh, I have some. I thought maybe I would decorate it here, but I don't know.
Cute. No, that's a good idea. Jason, did you get a picture of this, by the way? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
It's amazing.
that is really, now that's what I call a Yule log. That's definitely delicious.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think for people who don't know what a Yule log is, like I showed this to Brandon, was confused because he's like, oh, it really looks like a piece of wood.
That's okay. We don't have to give him a piece. It's not a problem. Okay, so let's go over the next step. So you've made the cookies, you've baked them, they're done, and now what?
Oh, okay. So then you make these little stacks of 6, and then
Can we move this out so that
yeah.
people can? Okay, so we've got stacks of 6. What have we got? 6 stacks of 6 cookies each.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then what happens? What's the next important part of making this? You go ahead and grab your whipped cream. Bring some from me because I definitely want it. All right. Anybody have any? You know what I'm going to do while you're doing that? I'm going to go talk to Tom Allen because he's always good for a laugh. Hi.
Hey, well, some people in the audience may have noticed that it's cold out tonight.
What?
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. By the way, it's -2, I think.
Is that right? Well, I'm from Minnesota and Wisconsin where it gets even colder. And speaking of Yule logs, we have a song about a frozen logger tonight, okay, if you're ready for this. As I sat down one evening within a small cafe, a 40-year-old waitress to me these words did say, I see that you are a logger and not just a common bum, 'cause nobody but a logger stirs his coffee with his thumb. My lover was a logger, there's none like him today. If you'd pour whiskey on it, he would eat a bale of hay. He never shaved his whiskers from off of his horny hide. He'd just drive them in with a hammer and bite them off inside. My lover came to see me upon a freezing day. He held me in a fond embrace which broke 3 vertebrae. He kissed me when we parted, so hard that he broke my jaw. I could not speak to tell him he'd forgot his Mackinaw. I saw my logger leaving, a-sauntering through the snow, going bravely homeward at 48 below. The weather, it tried to freeze him, it tried its level best. At 100 degrees below zero, he buttoned up his vest. It froze clean through to China, it froze to the stars above. At 1,000 degrees below zero, it froze my logger love. And so I lost my lover, and to this cafe I've come. And here I wait till someone stirs his coffee with his thumb.
Tom, always great.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Courtesy of Pete Seeger and the Weavers from 1950 something.
Wow.
Goes back away.
Yeah, that's a great one. That really is, and perfect for this evening, no doubt. All right, how are we doing?
Good. I'm just opening some for our next step, but I can start doing the sauces now.
Yeah, in just 1 second, I'm going to go over and we're going to go back to the Yule log for just 1 minute. But I'm curious, how many people here, just raise your hand, are going to eat raw oysters? Ooh, look at that! Almost everybody. That's pretty good. I'm surprised. So that's terrific. All right. So what's going to happen here? Essentially, you're making chocolate wafer sandwiches, right? Mm-hmm. And the whipped cream is everything that's in between, and you're also putting whipped cream on top.
As I'm going to stick all the stacks together to make the log.
Aha, so all the stacks get stuck together. Mm-hmm. And so the whipped cream is essentially the concrete.
Mm-hmm, the concrete.
Or the glue, or whatever you want to call it.
The filling.
Okay, and then all the log stuff you just shaped out of the powdered sugar and the confectioner's sugar and that type of stuff.
Oh, yeah, so then once it's a log, you put it in the freezer overnight, and then the next day you whip up another batch of whipped cream with some confectioner's sugar and cocoa, and then you just slather it on. Yeah, sculpt, slather. You just render what you believe a Yule log should look like. And you can take a fork and, carve lines into it, and you can do it really whatever you want.
Well, I'd say that you must have done a great job if it fooled Brandon, so that's really good. So, all right, so I will let you continue and make one, right? Make your log, and we'll go back to the oysters over here. And so the first step is the raw sauce.
Yeah. So put this away. Pull these down.
All right. So what are we gonna have to start off with? By the way, I mentioned one of your sauces has horseradish in it, I think.
Yeah.
And I was going to tell you that we could have made fresh horseradish sauce. I saw some horseradish root out there, but it was already too late by then.
This recipe calls for creamed horseradish. So
you could have put it in a high-speed blender.
Yeah, you could do that. So we're going to start with about a cup of regular ketchup. And
so you're making a type of cocktail sauce.
It's a cocktail sauce, just a plain, simple cocktail sauce. You start with ketchup. You add
about a cup?
About a cup. Well, I mean, it depends on how many people.
Sure.
And
then you've got horseradish. So with a cup of horseradish, with a cup of ketchup, you're going to use about what you've got so far, about 2 tablespoons. All right. But you got to have a spoon that'll fit in there, right? Because it's, and if you can get, oh yeah, that looks good. So you want it to be a little bit spicy.
Yeah, so I'm going to add a little of Tabasco as well, a couple dashes. That's to taste, so if you want it more, you can add more if you want.
If you want to be burning, you can do a lot more. And then fresh lemon.
Fresh lemon, just a little bit of a squeeze, and then some Worcestershire
sauce, right?
Just a little dash, and then you just mix it up. You can also add some chopped up red onion if you'd like, a little bit of crunch in there, or you can do it plain, or shallots for a little bit of a lighter onion taste, and then you just mix it up. It
smells so good. Really, really. I haven't had a good homemade cocktail sauce in a long time. I could eat that just with a spoon and forget about the oysters.
Well, now comes the very important taste test. I think that's good.
Did you do okay? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm proud. It? I'm sure. Yeah, I'd love to taste it. So. Oh yeah, that is really good. Really delicious. And it's got a nice little kick to it at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are going to really enjoy it.
And then the other raw one that we do is just a mignonette sauce.
Okay.
So
this is the one with the pepper.
The pepper, yeah. We're going to start with a vinegar, just some champagne vinegar. Pour in as much as you want to serve. So a lot.
Yeah. So this is a half a bottle of champagne vinaigrette. So I'm going to say about 8 ounces, huh?
Yeah, I might add a little bit more depending on how many people want to eat it. And then I've got some brunoise cucumber that I'm going to add.
And would you want to explain what a brunoise is?
It's a type of cut.
It's a beautiful little square cut.
It is. It refers to when you cut small little matchstick size pieces of anything, and then you dice them. That's a brunoise. And
so we've got shallot, and we've got, what's the other thing in there?
That is cucumber, diced up cucumber. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to grate a little bit of ginger into here.
Grated ginger, shallot, diced up cucumber, champagne wine vinegar, and of course,
the
pepper.
Pepper.
Right, and this is fresh ground pepper. We don't want to do, we're all frantically looking for the pepper. Where is that ingredient?
So I've got this on the largest
so you want it really coarse?
Size, very coarse. You can also take whole peppercorns and smash them.
So this is a really interesting technique with the fry pan technique, where you're smashing them with.
Yeah, you can do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe you can explain that, because I bet people it might be a great thing for some people to get their aggressions out in the kitchen. You know, they can do that. They can smash pepper, and then they can have something useful as a result.
Yeah, you can just take some whole peppercorns, put them in a towel or a paper towel, whatever you want, and then just take the back of a pan and just smack it, and that will make a mignonette.
Okay.
All right.
Are you ready for the all-important taste test again? No salt in that, huh?
No, there's no salt in that. I could add a little salt if I wanted to, but I think that the oysters are a little briny.
Because the oysters are briny, so it's not necessary. All right.
Yeah.
Does it work?
That works.
Do I get to check?
You can.
Okay. I have something here really quickly. I guess a fork will have to do. Oh, that's so bright. That's great. It's great. All right. So we've got 2 raw sauces that are going to go with this. And what do you think as far as, should I move to donuts right now and let you get some oysters out into the audience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Let's do that.
But what about, I see other things here, and I'm really curious. We've got sake, and we've got miso. The miso is going to go into the baked preparation, right? What about the sake?
Sake mixes with the miso, and then we mix that with the Japanese mayonnaise. And then we will put a little duxelle on top of the oyster and the mayonnaise on top of that, and then in the oven.
Okay, so duxelle?
Oh, the duxelle is a sweated out mushroom, parsley, and lemon mixture.
Mushroom, parsley, and lemon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's see how people react. I'll be very interested to see the reactions of everybody. Sorry about that. To the oysters. And Brandon Neal, I have to tell you, I have to keep working out regularly simply because of the fact that I have to, eat your donuts every week.
Right, they're pretty delicious, huh?
Yeah. They're pretty delicious
because they're sour cream, old-fashioned. So rather than a traditional yeasted donut, we're using sour cream and baking soda, which gives it a little bit of a tangier taste. It's a little creamier, a little richer, a little more filling.
Yeah.
Definitely delicious.
Yeah, now why sour cream old-fashioned?
Why do I make the sour cream old-fashioned? Well, I actually like a yeasted donut. That was my favorite. And that was kind of my original idea, and we made both in the beginning. But we were just selling out of the sour cream old-fashions. People knew about them. I think it kind of reminded them of their childhood. I think it's a traditional donut. It's a little older. I was surprised, quite frankly, and a little sad. But everyone else is excited, so that's what I'm focusing on right now. That's all I'm making.
You have my permission to do, like, for example, a classic glazed donut anytime you want. And, if you need to make a dozen of them.
Some customers, because
don't worry, I'll get you some customers for them.
We take them home. And these will last a couple days. The sour
Not in my house, they don't last.
Right. But if I have to take something home, like a raised, and it's hard as a rock the next day. So these are a little easier, and people love them. So
it's something anybody can make at home.
Yeah, definitely. And these are, in some ways, a little quicker and a little easier to make because you don't have to worry about the yeast and raising. And I have found the yeasted donuts to be a little more difficult just to get the right taste and texture. They can come out a little yeasty. These come out great. I think they're a good place to start at home.
We're talking with Brandon Neal, and we're talking about donuts right now on Great Taste. This is 60 minutes of delicious radio on KRUU-FM, and we're coming to you live from Hy-Vee. Oh, that is so. I got to be careful what I'm going to say, so I better not say anything. Next time, let's see that the hands move a lot faster, okay? Okay, so, all right. So, since I've been asking everybody how in the world they got excited about doing these types of things, what in the world drove you to make donuts?
America loves donuts, Steve. I love donuts. I always have. We got a nice little poster right there, a little postcard.
America loves donuts,
America
right?
loves donuts. Everybody loves donuts. Every country, apparently. It's a rich history. Traditionally, they go way back, a couple hundred years, maybe thousands. It was kind of almost the holy grail because it was lard, and that was expensive and rich, and it was kind of a holiday thing, actually. It was a lot of religious rituals that they were kind of based around, something that you brought out once in a while if you could afford it. And somehow America made a donut machine and it turned into an everyday thing. So I was in Seattle last year and I came across Top Pot Donuts, and they happened to come out with a recipe book, which made it really easy for someone like me who wasn't exactly in the donut making business or didn't go to pastry school to make donuts. And I've found some of these recipes I wanted to try and gave it a shot, and it worked.
Yes, it does. It works really, really well. And it's funny that you mentioned about the passion for donuts, because just last week I sent you an article, 25 best donut shops in America, and then starting, I don't know, a few months ago, there was this huge craze going on in New York with the cronut, which is the cross between the croissant and the donut. People waiting in line starting at 5:30 in the morning to get a cronut, which is...
They're $5. He only makes, I think, 300 a day. So, maybe we'll get a 100% certified organic with maybe coconut oil and be a $5 organic donut in Fairfield. I don't know. Maybe people line up.
I would line up, but I don't know how many other people would line up. So, donuts are
300 to start, apparently, to start our bakery. So, yeah.
I think what you should do, honestly, this is a different type of business model, not different because, as Danielle found out, just you look on the internet and it's already been there. Everyone has done that kind of model too. But I think you should do a membership-based model where people, can give you. It's just like a CSA, except that it's a donut CSA, right?
Donut and baked goods, yeah.
What we call it, donut supported DSB, a donut supported baking.
Right. Well, there's already a Neil's, same spelling as my last name, Neil's Donut and Bakery Shop. So it's out there. It's working. My alter ego's doing it somewhere else. We'd have to change our model, make it a little more unique, customized to Fairfield.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about how you make this dough, because that's what I'm curious about.
Sure. So I use a KitchenAid at home to mix the dough. First, I sift all the dry ingredients together. I use cake flour, pastry flour instead because it has a lower protein content. It makes it a little lighter.
And interestingly enough, sorry to interrupt you, but interestingly enough, this pastry flour comes from one of our local farmers. He's a couple hours away, but an Iowa farmer who makes this wonderful pastry flour.
That's early morning harvest wheat. And he actually has all-purpose. He has bread flour, and he has cake and pastry flour, so that's really great. Panora, Iowa. So it's an extra special treat. We've also got CNR eggs. That's local, and we've got Kelowna sour cream. So those are 3 local ingredients, and that's pretty good for a baked good. So I'll sift all the dry ingredients together, and I will...
Would you excuse me one second? I just realized those oysters have been sitting there for like 5 minutes, and nobody's moved over there to get them, which is pretty funny. So now...
Raw, we gotta shoot
yeah, I know. You should go get one before they're all gone, But I think Julia's working on more. It's okay. All right. Okay. So go ahead, now tell us.
Right, so there's 2 parts. There's the dry ingredients. You want to measure those out, sift them.
Now, Brandon, you know what? I want to stop you there. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but in the States, most of us, I think, that play at baking, when we measure things out with dry ingredients, we really don't do it the right way because it should be done by weight.
I do. I use a scale. I use a calibrated scale, and I use grams and ounces. I think it's a little more precise, and I think that's pretty important from what I understand in baking. So that's what I do. And then we get into the wet ingredients, and I also use the KitchenAid. I measure out the sugar in grams, and then I add the vegetable shortening, and I put the paddle attachment on. I run that for about a minute. I scrape the sides of the bowl with the spatula, and then I add the egg yolks. And I run that for another minute on high. Okay, and then I'm going to add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, alternating 3 times with sour cream. So I'm going to add a little bit of flour into the sugar, egg yolks, and vegetable shortening. And then I'm going to add a couple scoops of sour cream. And I'm going to run the mixer until it's incorporated. I don't want to over-incorporate it. And then I'm going to add some more flour.
What speed are you running the mixer at this point?
It's on low. It's on low. And I don't want to over-incorporate. I want to keep the dough soft. I don't want to get tough. So you're mixing the flour. You're going to stop, scrape the sides of the bowl, and then you're going to put in the sour cream. You're going to do that 3 times, alternating.
Okay.
When you finish that, you're going to scrape out the bowl, put it into another bowl, and you're going to cover that with some saran wrap, the dough, put it in the refrigerator for about 45 minutes, and it can go up to 24 hours. That's another nice thing about this sour cream old-fashioned donuts. You can put the dough overnight if you want to make it for the morning.
So you can do a slow rise, essentially.
It doesn't rise because it's baking powder instead of yeast, so you don't have to worry about that. It's pretty low maintenance. It's a much stickier dough as well. It's almost like a cookie dough.
So that's what you're looking for then.
Right. You're looking for a sticky, tacky cookie dough, and part of the reason for putting it in the refrigerator is to kind of mellow it out, so it's not, so you can work with it. You can roll it out.
Okay. And is it difficult to roll out with it being sticky?
If you didn't put it in the refrigerator, it would probably take way too much flour. It'd be one expensive donut. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier to roll out. You just sift out some flour onto your working board and put a little bit on your roller, and yeah, you can roll it out.
Okay, so it's a simple process, and you're going to give us the recipe, right, so that we'll put it up on the blog post. And then, like, the most important thing, obviously, when you make your little rounds and you have your little donut holes left over, which is great, you've got to fry it, right?
You got to fry it. Right, so we kind of skipped a step. So we're going to roll them out, and I actually use a donut cutter. If you want to use pastry rings or a clean old tin can, whatever you want to do, you want to roll it out to a half-inch thickness, and then you're going to punch them out, and you can roll back in the donut holes if you don't want them, or you can just fry those too, but then we get into the frying stage.
Okay, and we're using peanut oil, so just to let anybody know, in case anybody has a problem with peanut oil, we're using peanut oil.
Typically, canola oil is a good oil because I don't really know if there are any allergies involved there. It's a high heat. It has pretty much no flavor. The peanut oil adds a little bit of a different flavor, but it's actually a recommended frying oil for donuts as well, if you don't have to worry about the allergies.
And you're going to fry them for how long? Till they get like
Cake
golden
donuts,
brown?
That's another thing. That's the difference. The cake donuts, you're actually going to flip twice. So you fry them for a little bit longer at a little bit of a lower temperature, and you do 2 flips, which is what gives it that kind of special pedaling, what they call it. You see it has that uniform cracking on the surface of the donut.
So that's what you're looking for, is that uniform cracking.
For right.
I love it. It's just making me drool, so I'm really, really...
I can see that.
I can't wait till you start firing up the fryer here.
Fired up. It's ready to go.
It's ready to go. It's at 365.
So I'm using a Waring Pro home deep fryer. You can also use stock pots and a candy thermometer, deep fryer thermometer. This is a little easier for me making the quantities. I can keep the temperature, moderate a little more easily. I can do 6 at a time. So.
And that's the key, really, is keeping that temperature up, because otherwise you're going to have one soggy donut, right?
It's really important to keep the temperature as accurate as possible.
All right. Well, I can't wait to taste them. I'm really interested to hear what people think about the oysters.
It was very good. The mignonette sauce was great.
You had the mignonette. Who's had the cocktail?
I had the cocktail. It was wonderful. Really good.
All right.
Smooth.
Smooth. Okay. Looks like you got universally good reviews, Julia. I can't wait to have one, but I better wait until after the show, because otherwise I'll be sitting here chewing for quite a while. So.
Are you ready for the motoyakis?
Yes.
All right.
I like the name, so I'm really interested to. And the bake preparation, exactly. I'm really fascinated by how the texture and the taste is going to change between the raw product and the cooked product.
Well, the oyster itself gets harder, so it has a different mouthfeel, and then the flavorings that you add on top of it will get absorbed by the oyster, but the salt and the brine from the oyster will actually go into whatever flavorings that you add to it as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, now tell us a little bit about, because you and I were talking about this before while you're preparing to do the motoyaki sauce, tell us a little bit about this course of study that you did for wine, because I was fascinated by that.
My W set?
Yes, because you and I were both talking about the documentary Somm, which if you haven't, anybody seen that documentary, Somm? Okay, if you haven't seen it and you're interested in wine at all, or you just want to see people sweat, then you can watch that documentary because it's absolutely fascinating. It's about people studying to become master sommeliers.
Yeah, I'm not a master sommelier by any means, but I do have a general understanding of winemaking, different places of the world, what that wine would taste like, grapes, varietals, all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. But you were explaining that just for the level that you had to study, the book that you had to use was like 5 inches thick, and
it was about 3 inches, and it was very in depth. We did blind tastings every week. We did about 12 blind tastings. You're not blind, but you don't know what the wine is that you're tasting, and we did extensive notes, and then at the end we got to find out what it is that we were drinking, and compare and contrast that over. I think it was 12 weeks. It's a lot of wine that you drink.
And the final part was you had to take an exam, right?
Yes, I took an exam, blind tasted a red and a white, and you had to discern which it was, and also write a note, color, aroma, characteristics, that kind of thing.
And what also was engaging to me in our discussion was the next step that you were talking about potentially taking and how much more in-depth that is.
Yeah, my teacher likes to say that the first step is like stepping onto a chair, the second one is stepping onto a table, the third one is jumping onto the roof of a skyscraper, and the third one is going all the way to outer space, or the fourth one, outer space. So there's a lot more knowledge and a lot more in-depth studying that has to be done in order to get your diploma.
Yes, it's a fascinating field. All right, so motoyaki sauce.
Yeah, so motoyaki just refers to a miso mayonnaise that's sort of been baked. You can have motoyaki oysters, you can have motoyaki sushi, you can have motoyaki almost anything. So what I've got today is just some red miso that you can pick up here.
And red miso is what you want as opposed to white or as opposed to brown?
Actually, you can have a brown miso or a white miso, but the red miso is more traditional.
And is this a soybean miso?
Yes.
I think so. I think it is, right. Because there's lots of different grains that you can have too. So this is the traditional preparation basically for this sauce. Okay.
And then I've got some sake that I bought here at Hy-Vee.
Do we need to taste that, do you think? Or?
We can. Yes, that would be good. I'm just eyeballing what I'm doing right now. I have a recipe that I can give to you.
Yes, Julia has her friend here writing notes furiously so that I can post these on the blog so everybody can learn how to make their own motoyaki sauce when they're serving their oysters for their holiday parties.
So I'm dissolving the miso with the sake. So a tablespoon of miso, maybe 2 tablespoons of miso to the same maybe as the sake, just until it's dissolved.
Yeah, you're just mixing it together until it blends.
Yeah, and then I'm going to add...
Ooh, that smells good.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to add some KRUU mayonnaise. This is the Japanese mayonnaise that you can buy in any Asian market. Iowa City, they have one. Amazon.com. I got 2 for $4. It's not bad. And it's a Japanese mayonnaise, which is different from Hellmann's or any American mayonnaise because it uses a rice wine vinegar and egg yolk versus...
And you don't use very much of it as Julia's pouring the entire... yeah, let's see, how many ounces was that? That's a lot of...
500 grams.
Yeah, that's a lot of mayo.
Well, you guys can take some home and try it at home if you want.
But this is you could do this at home when you make mayonnaise. You could make it with the rice wine vinegar, couldn't you?
Yeah, if you made mayonnaise at home, absolutely you can do that. And an egg yolk versus the whole egg, that is also part of it. There's less lemon juice involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've made mayonnaise on the show several times, and I think this is a great little twist on it because so you're not using the whole egg. That was a key part of it. Using just the yellow of the egg, and you're also rice wine vinegar.
Yeah, rice wine vinegar.
But the process is going to be the same otherwise.
The process is the same. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the oil, you can use the same type of oil that you would use as making regular mayonnaise. If you want to use sunflower oil, safflower oil, or an olive oil, or whatever.
Yeah, any type of oil. Veg oil gives a cleaner taste than, say, olive oil, but if you like that olive oil taste, then absolutely, yeah.
Is that all there is to it?
Well, then there's the taste test.
Of course, the taste. I forgot. So we've got miso, we've got mayonnaise, but special type of mayonnaise, and we've got sake. Those three ingredients, and that's it.
Yeah, that's good. So, what we're going to do is move all this.
Okay, I'll use the other end of the other one.
We're going to take some of these oysters that I've opened.
That is really good.
Yeah, it is.
So now you're putting the oysters into a baking pan, essentially.
Yeah, it's a baking
And
pan that has...
hold on one sec. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, it's a baking pan that has some foil in it to keep the oysters level so they don't go flying all over the place.
It's the last thing we want are a bunch of flying oysters.
How many people do we have today?
I'd say to make about 15 or so. That would be great. But it doesn't matter. Whatever you make, we can make some more, right? So it's not a problem.
So I'm going to take some of the chopped up shallot that I had from earlier. I'm going to sort of just add a little to each one.
Basically, everything's going to go on top of the oysters.
Everything goes on top of the oysters, that's right.
So we've got chopped up shallots that's going to go on top of them. And then we have your mushrooms, right? The fancy name duxelle, and mushrooms and parsley. Yeah. And was there anything else in that?
Lemon juice, salt. That's about it.
Okay. And then on top of that is going to be the mayo?
Mayo, yeah. And if I had a squeeze bottle, which I forgot to bring, it would be easier to put on top of them. You just sort of
okay. So if you have your own
mayonnaise in the squeeze bottle and then use that to apply it to the top. But
okay, well that's easy enough to do. So now then you're going to put it in the oven at what temperature?
Well, I've got the oven on broil, so it's 500 degrees. And because you just want to bake the top of it so that the mayonnaise starts to brown, and then the oyster will cook, but not entirely.
Okay, so when we put this into the broiler, where do we want it? Do we want it 2 to 3 inches below, or do we want it 5 inches below? About where?
You can put it in the middle of the oven.
In the middle,
yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
All right, and for about how long? Just till it starts to brown?
Till it starts to brown, absolutely.
Okay. So that's pretty simple. That's something that, this looks like a wonderful preparation that you could make at home. That's great. Oh my goodness, we've got some donuts coming out of here. They look good. Okay, so now what's going to happen to them after they've come out?
So I just took them out. They're still hot. You also want to have your glaze made, which is just confectioner's sugar, some light corn syrup, salt, vanilla, and some hot water. So I like to make that just before I fry so it's still warm and it doesn't get clumpy. You're going to stir it up a little bit with a spatula. So I'll take the first batch out and I'll let them cool a little bit. I want them to still be warm when I glaze them. So I'm going to put the next set of donuts in here.
And you're going to glaze them while they're warm, and you're going to glaze them. Do you use a little paintbrush or anything?
I don't use a paintbrush. I just dip them right in.
You dip them right in totally. Oh, that's awesome. So you just submerge them.
Just the tops.
Just the tops. Right. Okay, that's it. So just the tops get put in there. Right. And that gives a real nice sheen to them and also a delicious little burst of sugar.
Right. It actually helps preserve them a little longer. With the cracking, the pedaling I was talking about, allows more of the sugar to absorb into the donut. Which
I want to just make sure everybody can see that they're beautiful little petals there. Okay. So, whoops, Julia's trying to get into the oven. So that's good. There's a lot going on around here.
I'll tell you really quickly, when you're frying the sour cream old fashions, with that double flip that you're looking for, after about 15 seconds, once they rise to the surface, you're going to start your timer, and after 15 seconds, you're going to give them their first flip. Then you're going to wait about a minute and a half until you flip them again. And then when that last minute and 15 seconds is finished, you're going to take them out and let them cool for about 10 seconds.
Okay, so the flips are critical here. Right. Don't anybody forget that. If you're really cold, which most of us are, right, you can start getting ready for spring because this came in the mail yesterday. This is the most magnificent seed catalog in existence. This is the seed catalog from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and it looks like they've given it a new name this year, Good Seeds, and it will be your savior for the winter because it is an absolutely gorgeous catalog filled with the most beautiful produce, and it will keep you going. You can sit for hours by the fireside thinking about all the seeds that you're going to order and all the wonderful things that are going to grow from that. Really great family. They've been on the show actually before, several years ago, but they're down in southwest Missouri, and Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. So you can request your catalog, I'm sure, online. It's free, so you don't have to worry about paying for it, and you can spend a lot of fun winter nights enjoying that wonderful. I see. This is pretty exciting. People are coming up, actually looking at how this is done. We can put that in front of the mirror, Julia, when you get finished. So that's terrific. Now you're going to do one more sauce. We're getting close to the end of the show, so I want to just make sure that you get to tell people about that other sauce that you're going to do.
Well, we were going to do the pan-fried oysters with salsa verde, and I was going to do a baked butter. So maybe we can just do one.
Oh, you can do both of them because it doesn't matter if the show's over. We're still hungry, so that's absolutely fine. So, but maybe you can just describe for everybody, what you're going to do. So pan-fried, that's just with butter.
I'm going to open this.
You're going to put that right in there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, they're looking beautiful. Yeah, they're looking really nice. So it's really only about 2 or 3 minutes under the broiler. That's all you need.
That's not bad.
No, but soon, 2 or 3 minutes. And then you've got your mitts because you don't want to reach your hand in without something covering it.
So with the pan-fried oysters, I'm going to melt some butter into a pan, a lot of butter. Then you take the oyster and dry it.
Okay, so you're actually taking the oyster out of the shell and you're going to dry it. What's the best thing to use for that? A towel?
A rag. I use these rags all the time. I will take maybe 50 of them and use them throughout a service, just constantly throwing them down just because of all the oysters. So we take the actual oyster, dry it a little bit, and throw it into the panko, which I've added some paprika, some salt and pepper, just to give it a little bit of flavoring.
And panko is a specific style of breadcrumb?
It's a Japanese breadcrumb, yeah. It's a regular breadcrumb, really. So you could use regular breadcrumbs if you wanted to.
Well, then why all the... Oh, you have to use panko breadcrumbs.
Well, it does taste better.
You can find them anywhere, so it's easy. It's absolutely easy to do.
All right. So then our little oyster.
It's essentially a breaded oyster into butter that has started to bubble really nicely, but you've got to watch it so you don't want it to turn brown.
Yeah, exactly. And then...
And how long are you going to put that on there?
That's a question that chefs get asked a lot. How long does it take to do something? And my answer is till it's done. Because
okay. What are we going to look for?
I'm going to look for a golden brownness to it.
Okay, so now the flipping is important on this too. Just like the donuts, the flipping on the oyster, you're going to have it golden brown on both sides. And is there a particular feel that you're looking for also, or is it just strictly the coloring? It will come up. So if I put my spatula underneath it and it doesn't want to come apart, then it needs a little bit more time. Gotcha. Okay. Julia Punj, thank you so much for doing a little oyster class for us. Really, really exciting. Danielle George, thank you for the Yule log. We're looking forward to taking apart that sculpture. And also Brandon Neal. So both of them, terrific job. Really looking forward to eating all this stuff. And thank you all for coming. You've been listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. Thank you, Tom. That's great. You can come back next week. Join us next week. We have the Indian Hills Culinary Arts students coming to Hy-Vee, and we're going to cook up some holiday treats. 60 minutes of delicious radio on KRUU, Great Taste.
in taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.